Siege has a lot of operators and different playstyles, and using my Giga Brain, I'm going to take a look at your operator mains and tell you what type of Siege player that makes you. Now, I want you to all do something for me. Comment right now who your main is in Rainbow Six Siege. If you don't have a main, comment your favorite operator. I want to see what the most popular ones will be. And I feel like a very common one we're going to see is going to be our first one here, which is Doc. Now, if you're a Doc main, there's a high chance that you are more of an independent solo queue player who's trying to rely more on yourself with the healing and on the acog for an aggressive playstyle. You may think you are a massive team player because you occasionally heal one of your teammates every so often, and you use that as an excuse to then play aggressive and try and get more frags. You may not be helping the most in the prep phase either, despite Doc being really good at setting up sight, especially with his bailiff, and since he has a gadget which isn't really useful until the action phase starts, he can really help take the load off some other defenders who have a lot of utility to place during the prep phase. Although you may not be the most selfish player, there is a little bit more team play that you could be leaning into, especially with dishing out stims more for your team rather than holding them all for yourself.
말보다는 행동이지.
If you're currently a Vigil main, it tells me that you're someone who likes to jump on trends and just copies what everyone else is doing. You probably didn't even touch him until the Boss G and SMG-12 became the meta, and if they were to be nerfed, you would not know which operator to then go and play. You're the type of player, if Vigil is already picked, will start screaming down the microphone for them to get off so you can play them, and then instantly die within the first 10 seconds of the action phase. You probably forget that Vigil even has a gadget to begin with, and just swing every corner without any intel. The SMG-12's fire rate has probably saved you in so many situations, despite your aim being abysmal. There's also a high likelihood that you won't be assisting your teammates, which will eventually lead to you being in a 1vx situation. You'll probably get a few picks, but nothing meaningful, and you'll still lose the round, but because of this, it will give you an ego over the rest of your team, despite only getting exit frags, which contributed nothing, but because you see your name higher on the leaderboard, you think you're the better player. You're mechanically mediocre at best, and if a good stack was to play against you, they would fly through you in an instant, and you'd blame everyone but yourself.
Fucking laser sights.
If you're a Thatcher main, your primary focus isn't just to get kills. You understand the importance of utility and needing to adapt to each situation. Someone on the team has to play this role, and you know if you don't do it, probably no one else will. But just because you are playing a utility-focused operator doesn't mean you won't mind having to get into gunfights either. You feel comfortable with his very strong loadout, and if you need to pick up the pieces when your teammates have failed, you are more than capable of doing so. You're someone whose teammates would always love to have you on the team, even though they may not show you the same level of respect and teamwork you're showing them. You're not constantly peeking spawn peaks to try and get an early pick. You understand the importance of your operator and getting to that breach alongside the hard breacher, and once you've done your work assisting opening breaches, clearing other utility, disabling cameras, that's when you can get a little bit more dangerous and go for some plays. And even with Thatcher as banned, you'll begin to play operators in a similar playstyle and role.
Gotta go fast.
If you're an Ashman, you probably think that you're one of the best players in the world. Instead of thinking, how can I assist my team, you're probably thinking, how can I hit a cool clip for TikTok for 3 likes? Instead of using her breaching rounds to clear shields, bulletproof cameras, evil eyes, and even clear walls from below, you're too busy wasting them to breach walls to go for a rush, and then you blame everyone else when stuff doesn't work out. You think what makes a good player is only based on the amount of kills they have on a leaderboard. If anyone has less kills than you, despite them being the primary reason you actually won the round, you'll still think it was on you because you got kills and you are an infinitely better Siege player than they are. You think this game is Call of Duty and you'll never be satisfied unless you're 1v5ing every single round with no intel and rushing into sight. You completely undermine the rest of your team and Ash as an operator herself, but God forbid if anyone calls you out on this because you have an ego which is through the roof and will never listen to anything someone says, even if it's constructive criticism.
Waffles.
If you're a Sense main, you're someone who is always trying to do new things in this game. Although operators may be underpowered and not as meta as other ones, you always want to try something new. You love the uniqueness and adaptability of Siege, and even though it may not work, you're always keen to try it again or continue to adapt on a strat to find the best version of it. You're someone who doesn't care what other people do or say about you, and as long as you're learning, having fun, and trying new things, that is what matters most to you. And your overall primary goal is still trying to win and find new, unique avenues of doing that, as well as still assisting your team. You don't base your opinions on operators the same way as everyone else, and you try not follow that herd mentality. And if something doesn't work out, people will constantly criticize you for it. But if you are the reason for that star play and that win, they'll begin to glaze outplays you, even though 5 minutes ago they were probably spiting you to hell. You're someone who's always excited to see what new operators get added to the game and how they can be incorporated with new strats alongside older operators.
Canada.
If you're a Buck main, then you're someone who absolutely loves the map destruction of Rainbow Six Siege. You understand when to be aggressive, and that is definitely something which is needed on the team, but there are many different ways of doing so. Simply walking through a doorway and doing the same thing every time isn't going to work, and the defense are going to learn what is happening. You're someone who is quick thinking and actually puts in the effort to learn maps, which you can then use to your advantage. Using a shotgun, you take your enemies off guard, pushing them out of different locations, opening new ones, and simply scaring and pressuring them, allowing your team to then get the upper hand. Despite Buck having very strong guns, you know when to hold back and wait for your time, because losing him early is a massive loss. You're a very skilled flex player who understands the values of different operators, and before you even begin to switch to your shotgun, you make sure to go on your drone first and make sure it's clear. And if all things go south, you're more than capable of clutching up if you have to. You're a valuable player which everyone would benefit from.
He's French.
If you're a Monty main, you may be someone who is using him a lot during the shield reworks buff era, where he was very aggressive. Now that shields have had a little bit of a nerf, you still understand how strong that they can be, but you're using that skill and knowledge to hold back and be more of the supportive player. You know how to get your team in the building, you know how to take control of areas, and you know when and when not to drop your shield and then try and strike the enemies. You understand the importance of being this shield operator, relaying intel to your team, and also guiding them on where they should go. You know how to be the leader in the team, but if someone else takes control, you understand to listen to them and try and assist what they're planning. You are a true support player who loves assisting your team and understands the value of the operator you are playing. You can be a major factor in winning and losing the round, so you don't take this job lightly, and you can then pride yourself on the contribution you had to the round, and think of many different ways to improve this and continue doing so. This is why you continue to keep picking him, and why you always want to improve on him.
I got this bet with Porter.
If you're a Legion player, you're someone who understands the meta and understands the importance of slowing down the attack. There's a high chance that the moment you spawn in, you'll start instantly making rotates with your pocket shotgun, as well as setting up the bomb site, placing goo mines in key areas to slow down those attackers, as well as alerting your teammates to where the push are coming from. You may get a bit over aggressive in times where you shouldn't, since you're more valuable staying alive because you'll have more goo mines throughout the round, and although a lot of the time this may work out, you realize that maybe you got a bit too aggressive and you should start to reel it in for a little bit. Despite this, you'll usually be alive later than a lot of other operators on the team, and might commonly be there for the dying moments of the rounds. You use the information given by your goo mines, as well as every other variable in the round, to lead your team to victory, and use your patience and skill to do so. You're someone who understands the power of the goo mine, and will make sure not to leave them in your pocket, always placing them when you have the chance. You're someone who truly cares about winning your defending rounds, and not going for flashy acog kills like some other players would be.
Boom!
If you're a Capcan main, you're someone who loves getting free kills. Don't worry, we all love it as well. You know when you're on that operator select screen that when you pick Capcan, there's a high chance that someone's going to hit your traps. Now, it doesn't mean you're a bad player, it doesn't mean that you need to rely on Capcan, but you know you're definitely going to have a higher chance of success with him, and you know that your enemies are going to fall for it. But not only do you know that your traps are going to be useful, you know that you're going to have a great weapon as well as a nitro cell to use throughout the round as well. You're not just going to rely on your Capcan traps for getting the kills, you are still going to be doing other things, playing on cameras, taking gunfights, denying plants with nitro cells, but in the back of your mind, you know that those Capcan traps are still out there on the map, and you're going to get a great deal of satisfaction when you see it pop up in the kill feed that someone has hit one. Even if you're not having the best game, you know that your Capcan traps are still going to be assisting your team, so although you may not have the best aim at the moment and are just making bad decisions, you can still feel a sense of accomplishment that you have helped your team with your traps.
He looks like Tom Selleck.
If you're a Warden main, it tells me that you're someone who actually cares about holding down positions and countering the attacking team. You weren't just one of these people who would only ever play Warden because he had the 1.5 times scope before. You're someone who actually cared about the potential of his gadget and how useful he is at slowing down a push. Now, you may be currently crutching him a little bit because of the SMG-12, but there are more aspects to him as an operator, so it'd be wrong to say that's the only reason you play him. You may not necessarily be running around the map looking for kills like some other players would be, rather you'd let the attackers push you and exploit the weaknesses which they present to you, and that is when you use your moment to take a gunfight and most likely win. You don't care that you're not the fastest operator in the game, you don't care that you're not the flashiest, you know the different scenarios you can put yourself in which will give you the upper hand, and it is the failures of the attacking team which will lead you to victory. But you also can't deny that you do like the low recoil MPX and the high fire rate of the SMG-12.
Microphone muted.
If you're a mute main, it simply tells me that you care about winning. You want to stop those drones, you want to jam those thermite charges, those ace Selmas. You're genuinely someone who sees the value in anti-intel and slowing down that attacking push. Killing enemies is not at the forefront of your mind. It's slowing down those drones and forcing the enemies to play into you. The mixture of having the SMG secondary as well as the shotgun primary allows you to take fights in many different ways. You understand when to use either of these weapons, close range being the shotgun and long range being the SMG, so you have knowledge on when and where to position yourself in different locations around the map, playing off different half walls, shields, and not just standing in the middle of the open hoping to win a gunfight. You're someone who even may lose a gunfight or not get the flashiest kills with mute, maybe even just getting one of them, or none. You still pick him again in the next round because you understood how important the mute jammers were, instead of picking an operator like Vigil and trying to play like you are in a Siege Invitational Grand Finals.
I love feet.
If you're a Jackal main, it means that you truly do care about clearing the map and going for a proper execute. You don't simply play him because people regard him as annoying, or because it may necessarily give you free kills. It's because you genuinely care about clearing that operator from their position so you and your team can get sight. You don't want to just randomly run into each room trying to take a gunfight with someone. You want to make sure that your flanks and rooms you're entering are safe so you can begin that collapse onto the bomb site. Especially if you are a solo player with not a lot of communication, Jackal allows you to relay a lot of information to your team, exposing the position of this roaming defender or who may be in sight without necessarily even to use your microphone. Especially with how a lot of players like to play defense these days, Jackal is a necessity which you must bring a lot of the time, because once you start to collapse on those low skill roamers, the rest of the team will quickly fall apart. You're not there to get free kills, you're there to get the job done and actually win the round. That is your priority, not necessarily getting kills, but if you have to, you'll happily use his strong arsenal. If you're a Doki main, you're someone who actually truly understands the meta of Rainbow Six Siege and are probably someone who plays in a 5-stack and are coordinated and truly playing to win. You understand the importance of intel both on the attacking and defending team, and the fact that Doki can exploit both of them. This is an operator choice that you will frequently pick every attack, and a lot of your teammates will build their choices around this one. You won't just start randomly calling as well, you'll probably hold on to them until your teammate requests one, or if you are going to do it, you'll relay that information to the rest of your team that a call is about to happen. This is something you will time and coordinate with the rest of your team to then coincide with a push, and you and your teammates will all work in unison rather than all just playing solo. You are truly hard support who cares about getting your teammates to that next position to win the round, and if you aren't on your phone droning or calling, you're most likely with your gun holding an angle assisting your team. If you're playing Doki, you're most likely a high rank player, traversing your way through the ranks and playing the most important operators as you do so. And of course, most importantly, if you are a Caveira main, you are gold.